What is it that makes us capable of supposing anything? And does this tell us anything about what we can suppose? Are there things about the universe that will be forever beyond our grasp, but not beyond the grasp of some superior intelligence, some superior superhuman intelligence? Or are there things about the universe that are, in principle, ungraspable by any mind, however superior? The history of science has been a long series of violent brainstorms as successive generations have come to terms with increasing levels of queerness in the universe. We're now so used to the idea that the Earth spins rather than the sun moving across the sky, it's hard for us to realize what a shattering mental revolution that must have been. After all, it seems so obvious that the Earth is large and motionless, the sun small and mobile. Although it's worth recalling what Wittgenstein said on the subject. Wittgenstein asked a friend of his, why do people always say it was natural for man to assume that the sun went round the Earth rather than that the Earth was rotating? His friend replied, well, obviously because it looks as though the sun is going round the Earth. Wittgenstein responded, well, what would it have looked